Welcome back to Not a Straight Line with me, Pete Daly-Dickson. This is the show that explores the non-linear journeys of artists and entrepreneurs to inspire you as you zigzag through your own non-straight line life. And this week, I'm joined by the South African marvel of copywriting and theatre, Ashleigh Harvey. With Ashleigh's youth affected by apartheid and a difficult home life, she found her saviour in the performing arts. Now, the traditional 9-to-5 wasn't her jam either, which meant her fated role in artistry and entrepreneurship was set early on. Writing for radio plays for South African public radio, she was then discovered from her radio and acting work and made the move to London to begin the path to her dream of working on the West End. Her soft, thoughtful and spiritual approach is sometimes masked by her go-and-get-'em attitude, honed by her work as a copywriter, for those who appreciate her values of feminism, open dialogue, and the human condition. A lot of my guests make me think more deeply about my own story, and Ashleigh's non-straight line journey helped me appreciate even more about the unique path we're all put on. I'm sure that you'll get a lot out of her story and our conversation as well. Here we go. As we do at the start of all of these episodes of Not a Straight Line, we're just going to close our eyes, the three of us, and take 3 physiological sighs. A physiological sigh is 2 breaths in through the nose, held for a beat, and then breathe out. So you want to close your eyes and breathe in twice. And again. One last time. Ashleigh Harvey, welcome to the Not a Straight Line podcast. And I was going to say, I'm so fucking stoked for this conversation.
We can swear.
Yeah, I should probably do that right at the beginning, just so that my guests know that it's okay. I can't tell you how much I can't tell you how much. That's the earliest F-bomb, by the way, so far. I can't tell you how much I've been looking forward to this conversation. How are you, my dear?
So well. I'm in South Africa at the moment. I'm very warm. I'm with my family. Things are good. Things are really good. So
right.
Yeah.
You're actually a step ahead of me in the conversation, because my next question is, so where are you in the world? But you've already gone there. Is that just for the sake of the listener? Is that where you live? Is that where you are permanently?
No, so I'm permanently based in London, and I try and get back to South Africa at least once a year. Sometimes it's not possible, but I managed to come back here midway through Jan, and I'm here for about a month, and it's just been really good for my soul and my vitamin D and my suntan, and I feel really good.
I can tell the difference, because the last time you and I had a conversation, it was a catch-up call. You had just come into the end of a 9-month tour, I think, musical theatre. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
And the contrast between that, Ashleigh, I wouldn't say you were let's say like super stressed or whatever, but like there is definitely a contrast between that Ashleigh and the one I'm looking at now.
Yeah.
You got like a bit of a kimono on, and you're relaxed, and
yeah, things are good.
That's great. So now that we've got your geographical setting sorted out, let's the two of us climb up to the top diving board and jump into this conversation. And I do that the same way with every guest, with the question that I send them a couple of days before the conversation. So when you saw that question, was there a time in your life that immediately came to mind?
Yes. When I immigrated, I think, to the UK from South Africa, which happened in 2019, just before the pandemic, which was really rough. I think it was the biggest moment of change, not just in terms of where I was physically, but also in terms of where I found myself mentally. I moved to the UK for very specific reasons. I wanted to break into the London theatre scene, and also the English British theatre scene. And I just didn't think it would ever happen. I think I I hoped it would and I dreamed it would, but actually moving there and having the experience of learning there and auditioning there and then getting work there has been, I think, one of the greatest joys slash challenges of my life. So yeah, it would have to be that.
Those are often two sides of the same coin, aren't they? Opportunity and challenge. I'm
Yeah,
sure there'll
yeah,
be more of
yeah.
that as we go. So were you working in the theatre in South Africa before you emigrated?
Yeah, so I was working in South Africa and I did really beautiful work here and I did mainly theatre here. I only really was cast in a lead role sort of at the age of 35, which is quite late. When I got that role, I just found a lot of confidence in myself and my ability. And then I sort of moved from one show to the next. And then I had a few conversations with some people and I just figured that moving to the UK was probably the best thing for me to do. Theatre here is in South Africa is tricky.
Whereabouts in South Africa are you?
Johannesburg. So I was based in
Okay.
Johannesburg and I did some work in Cape Town, but mostly I was in Johannesburg and the audiences here are very small. The runs are very short. The money isn't great. And there's also a lot of time between jobs because there's not a lot of work. So I just knew I needed more and I wanted more. And I knew that London was the place for me to be.
So how long had you been going at it?
Oh gosh. Well, I studied drama here, when I turned 18 and I left high school, I studied drama for 4 years. So I was working professionally here from the age of about 22 until I left, which was at the age of 37. So I lived and worked here my whole life. And then when I got to the age of 37, I left and went over to the UK. So it was a big thing to do, especially at that age, right? Like I think
Yeah.
a lot of people emigrate in their 20s. Certainly, people I knew had moved over much earlier or had at least moved over to London and studied there and then, gone on to work there. So it was quite scary to leave at a later age and try and start all over again. Tough.
That's a long time. So from 22 to 37, 15 years to really kind of stay committed
Mm.
to it. Did your acting career support you financially in that time?
No, not at all. So I'm a writer. It was so weird. It was so weird how it happened. So I had auditioned. We have a national broadcaster in South Africa called the SABC, like the BBC in the UK. And SABC has a number of TV stations and radio stations. And one of those radio stations is SAFM, and they do radio dramas, like a Friday night radio play and then a daily drama and all sorts of things in between. And I auditioned to be a performer in the radio dramas. And I didn't hear anything for the longest time, probably over a year. And then they called me really early one morning and they said an actor had fallen ill and had pulled out of the radio drama and could I come in like now and do it. And that started a whole trajectory of experiences and relationships and work that I built up over the following, over the subsequent 10 years maybe. So I started off performing and then I said to them, look, I need more money, like I need to be making regular income. And they asked me to write for them. So I wrote, I don't know, 100 radio plays for them. And then I wrote on the daily drama as well with three other writers. And that was how I made money. And then the theatre was, you know, the joy, the heart stuff and the soul work. And if I was paid for that, then that's great. But I certainly didn't live off that.
Yeah. So although, so I guess my question would have been better asked as did your creative pursuits pay? So although you weren't acting, I mean, writing, acting, it's kind of
Yeah,
different
yeah.
facets of the same game, isn't it?
Totally, and I sing, right? Sort of later on in my 20s and into my 30s, I was gigging a lot as well. So I was gigging all over Johannesburg and in pubs and restaurants and clubs and weddings and private functions and end of year functions. So certainly all the money that I made living in South Africa was came from creative pursuits, which is obviously. And I tried doing several desk jobs. I was terrible. I couldn't do them. I used to get so frustrated, and I couldn't do the 9 to 5 thing, and it wasn't built for me.
I'm curious, what frustrated you in particular?
I think not having control over my own time, like having to be up at 6 a.m. and work at 8:30, and then working, and then taking lunch for an hour, and then you have to end at 5, but then you've got all kinds of other stuff you have to do. So you're only really leaving at 7. And I just could not um, make that work. I just couldn't do it. And
Was it really that, or was it that you weren't expressing yourself creatively? Because in a way, what you just described, when you've been on a tour, when you're touring a production, you can't wake up whatever time you like. You can't just rock up to theatre anytime you like.
sure, but there is more freedom in a theatre production. Like there is more freedom in the sense that you have to be at work at like 6:30, and then you're done by 10 or 10:30, and then the day after that is kind of yours. You can get up and have breakfast and go back to sleep, or go and do a workout, or go for a walk, or have coffee with friends. And then unless you're in rehearsal, which is a lot more demanding of your time, once you're into a run, you do have more freedom. I mean, I certainly have the freedom to run a whole separate business away from performing. But also, in answer to your question, if I'm completely honest, I found the power structures in those companies really difficult to manage. I found the hierarchical structures quite oppressive. I found some people really difficult to work with, and there was a lot of like, you have to do this way, and you can't do it any other way. And I'm just not built that way. Like I'm just not built that way. And when it comes to authority, I want to have a dynamic relationship where there's mutual respect and we're sort of learning from one another. And I just found some of the businesses that I worked in didn't have those same ideals or beliefs.
Yeah, I think it's about coming into relationships with a sense of equality, as opposed to I'm stronger, higher, more important than you. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. And of course, respect must be earned. Like I don't expect to walk into any situation and just have the respect of someone. I mean, I would love to have just the respect as a fellow human being, but certainly respect is earned. And I just felt like the more I worked and the more I did and the later I stayed, that respect wasn't forthcoming, and I had to leave.
The more you give, the more they take.
Yeah, yeah. And it's really so much about money. Like so much of it is about money. And I love money. Like I'm the first person, like I'll be the first person to say to you, I love money more than I love like my own family. But like you have to also like balance that out with, you know, I don't know, other things.
So have you always been a writer? So you stumbled in effect into this writing career. Have you always been a writer?
I think I have. I think I was always writing at school. Like I was always writing creatively, and I took creative writing as a module when I was studying. So I've always loved language and words and what language can do. Like I really believe actually language is all we have, and we have to be very careful with it and very smart with it, and we can also play with it. And it's it's the way we express ourselves. So
What do you mean it's all we have?
if we couldn't speak with one another, and I think this is a big problem in the world actually, is because we all don't speak the same language. We just, it makes everything so much more difficult. Like if we just all spoke the same language and used the words, the right words for the situations we were in, I feel like the world would be a better place. I think language is, maybe it isn't, but I think it should be the foundation of everything. And not just language, like the English language. I mean, like the ability to access language, the ability to express ourselves, the ability to talk to one another, the ability to listen properly, because listening is part of language. So I just feel like language is a really powerful tool that we sometimes take for granted.
Words create reality, don't they?
Well, that's the thing. I think words create our own reality, and the things we say to ourselves creates our reality. And so we have to be really careful with those words. But I think the words we use with other people are so important, and we have to be really mindful of the words we use when we engage with other human beings. And I think, I mean, you just have to hop onto Twitter to see that
No, let's not.
we're just using words that are, yeah, it's not working. It's not working.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting you said there about, you talked about the words that we say to ourselves.
Mm.
Arguably, that's the most important use of language and words. On reflection, what words were the Ashleigh that was just finishing college, studying 4 years of drama and writing and stuff? What words was she saying to herself?
I think the words were really confused. I think I was really confused. So I come from a quite a broken home. My father was an alcoholic, and we lost everything when I was in high school. He was kind of bedridden with clinical depression, and it was a very dark time in my life. And
When you say you lost everything,
we lost everything. We lost the house, the cars. We had no food. Like, my friends were buying us groceries. We just we just had nothing. Like, we were very, very poor.
did you have siblings?
I have two sisters, yeah, two younger sisters. We moved into this tiny cottage. My sisters and I shared a bedroom. My parents were in the other room. It was a really difficult time. And so I went to university, and I was still living at home throughout university. And there was just a lot of conflict in the home. There was a lot of I had quite an unhealthy relationship with my mother. There was a lot of guilt in the home around me sort of not being there and wanting to spend more and more time, at university and rehearsing, auditioning for shows and rehearsing and then being in shows. And I just elected to not be at home often or enough. And so I left university like frightened, I think, of the world and what my role was in the world, because I had been fulfilling a particular kind of role at home. And also my language was very much around money. Like, I really never believed I would make money because my family had no money. And so I remember saying to myself at one stage, you are not your parents, and your parents' story is not your story, and you will make money and it will be okay. But I had to really work at that, like work at redefining what money meant in my life, and working on the language I was using to talk about money and to think about money and to make money not a thing to be frightened of.
And were you influenced by anybody or anything, or is that something that you came to on your own?
I read some books. Like, I read some books by I think Deepak Chopra was one book, but like, I was never a massive follower of anything particularly spiritual, but I read certain books. And so I think he was the one who wrote about having mantras and writing down mantras. And so I started writing, because when you write, you access a different part of your brain from when you speak. So I started writing down mantras about being financially secure, like I am, like, and putting it in the present tense, I am financially secure, or I am doing the work that I love that makes me permanently financially secure. So it was something like that. And I would write it every morning and every night, I think between 3 and 6 times.
Can you say that phrase again? It's a beautiful phrase.
I am doing work that I love and earning enough money to make me permanently financially secure.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's what it was, something like that. But I was very
Yeah.
specific about the words that I used. And then obviously I knew a mantra wasn't the only thing that was going to like help me or
Yeah, it's not magic.
change my life. It's not magic, right? So I knew I had to put things in place as well. It wasn't just like I was off with the fairies writing mantras every day, hopefully. But what it did do was it did open up a different pathway in my brain, or it did. I don't know how the brain works, and I'm not an NLP expert or any of those things. But what I do think happens is you just start to open up a neural pathway in the brain that has been shut. I just needed to open up that space to think differently about money, because my whole world and my whole life and my whole internal dialogue was saying to me, you have no money, you'll never have money, you're always going to be poor, you'll be homeless, you're never going to do what you love. And I just needed to shift that.
Yeah. To be fair, sorry, you had a lot of evidence for that. It's not like just stuff that you were making up in your head. It's like that was your life.
Totally. And also money was such a source of stress, anxiety, fear, confrontation, screaming, so I also had to fall in love a bit with money and be like, money is not a bad thing. It's the way you use it and the way you deal with it and how you make it and your beliefs around it that are the problem. But then I also did other things. Like I listened to, I don't know if you know Susie Orman. She's a Canadian financial expert. I tried to listen to all of her. She had CDs out at the time, and I tried to listen to all of them, but I just couldn't get through them all. But the one thing I did that I thought, if there's one thing I can do here, it's I can just save 10% of everything I earn. That if I do one thing, I'm going to do that. And I did that, and I've never stopped doing that.
Starting at what age?
25, I think. So I would have started younger, but I just didn't know, and I didn't have that kind of education. But doing that helped me buy property in South Africa. It helped me immigrate. It's like allowed. I'm in the middle of buying a house now in London. Not a house. No one can afford a house in London. Flat in London, but still, it's property in London.
A box.
But it's mine. It's mine, and it's be mine, and I can do with it what I like. Yeah, and that one lesson has led to me being permanently financially secure, which is what I wanted, So yeah, that's a lot. Sorry.
That was do not apologize. That word is not allowed out of your lips again in this conversation. All right?
Okay.
If you do, I will fucking reach in there and push it back in.
I'm going to retract it.
Yeah.
Follow it back.
I feel what you just said is incredibly inspiring and full of hope for the listener might be in a similar situation or whatever, and just knowing that one thing that you did. But I also feel sad hearing what you talk about, because I learned, I heard that save 10% through reading. It's almost a pamphlet. It's a little book called The Richest Man in Babylon. I don't know if you've read that. It's a parable, and it's the same thing. It's a parable to teach that lesson of saving 10% of everything that you earn.
Yeah.
And I was probably, I don't know, in my early 20s when I first read that book.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that. We've both reaped what we sowed or didn't sow.
Yeah.
And I'm not at 56. I'm not in a position of financial security.
Yeah.
So, listener, like you got both ends of the spectrum here. I guess in that, this isn't like woe is me, because I am aware that it is about mindset, and the words that I'm choosing to say to myself about money and about wealth and about my ability to attract wealth to me through doing what I love, basically having conversations like this and creating these kind of spaces, that's really shifted in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
So I know that times they are changing is what I'm saying. So I guess the question is it ever too late? I mean, you had the foresight and the wisdom and the mindset and the ability to take that action when you're 25, and you're reaping the rewards of it now. I didn't. Is it ever too late to do what you've done?
No, nothing's ever too late. It's never too late to do anything. I mean, I think if we thought that, life would be so bleak. It's never too late. I think when it comes to money, if you just start today, the place you'll be this time next year will be different. The thing that it does is it's not even about the money. I mean, of course it's about the money and saving that money, but in the moment of doing it, it's about feeling like you've chosen yourself, and you've made a decision to do something for you, for your future self. And that's really empowering, and every month, I still do it now. Every month I go into my bank account and I look at all the money that's come in and I go, what's 10% of that? And sometimes I add a little bit onto that if I can, put it in a separate account. And then and then when there's enough money there, I invest it. And every time I do it and I look at my actual bank account, like depleting, I go, "Ugh, I could have taken that money and bought like a pair of Jimmy Choos, or like I could have, I don't know, gone to Barcelona with that money." But actually, what I'm doing is I'm choosing my future self, and I'm choosing, maybe the 50-year-old me or the 60-year-old me who wants to live in a bigger house. So I don't know. I just think it's really empowering, and it teaches you to be responsible. And I really don't think it's too late for anything. I think you can do anything whenever you want. That's what I think. And sometimes that gets me into trouble, but mostly it helps me do things I really want to do, and like explore stuff and have fun and, yeah, go on adventures, which I think is really important.
Are you neurodivergent? I can't remember if we had this conversation.
I've never been diagnosed that. I don't
No.
know. I I don't know. I don't, probably not. I would say,
No.
yeah.
The only reason, the only reason I ask is that um, it's and I'm not blaming my ADHD for it.
Mm,
That it is a common trait of people with ADHD, those characteristics of neurodivergence, where we do find ourselves in financial difficulty because
mm,
buying things on credit is you see something that you want, you buy it, you get that dopamine
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
hit.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was just kind of exploring that if you were, how you manage that. Yeah, so there are everyone's different and unique, and everyone's situation is their own.
Absolutely. And I mean, I can't speak to that. I don't know anything about that, and I would hate to make presumptions on that. But I mean, of course, like I get like a bit of a dopamine hit when I buy stuff, but more often than not, I get buyer's remorse. So I probably don't suffer from.
You probably get a bigger dopamine hit from taking that 10% and putting it into something because you're choosing yourself. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
So you used a beautiful turn of phrase there. Not surprisingly, you're a writer. I suspect there'll be plenty of turns of phrases like choosing your future self.
Yeah.
Again, I want to go back to the 22-year-old Ashleigh, leaving college, leaving university. What future self did you? I know you've already said that you were feeling confused and frightened and stuff, but was there a sense of the future that you saw for yourself at that age?
Gosh, that's a really good question. I don't I don't really remember. I know that I wanted the pain to end. I was in a lot of pain. I was very depressed. I auditioned for a lot of stuff when I was in my 20s and never got the work. So I I really believed for a very long time that I wasn't very good at being a performer. And I think that stayed with me. Like I have incredible imposter syndrome, like wild imposter syndrome with my performing. But there must have been something inside of me that knew that I was talented and that I would make a career of this, because I didn't stop. Like I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. So I think there was something in me that knew I wanted big things, but it wasn't like explicit. It wasn't. I also fell into relationships like just ridiculous. Like I fell into relationships. I got married. I got divorced. I got married again. So like my relationship life played a huge role in my choices, which I think if I could go back, I may do that all over again. But in the moment of being that 22-year-old, I just wanted peace. And that took a very long time for me to get. Like decades, probably.
Were you looking outside of yourself for that?
Oh, yes. Oh my God, yes, of course. Yeah. I was looking at men, I was looking at work, I was looking at money. I mean, I still look, I think I don't want to tell the listener what's what, but I think if you're a performer, you are often looking outside of yourself for validation, and you seek something that you don't have within you. So I've had to make peace with a lot of that stuff. I mean, it gets easier as you get older. It's got easier for me as I got older. But still struggle like with all kinds of things. And then I have to say to myself, no, you're fine, you're talented, you're smart, you're resourceful, you're resilient. And I think because I have life experience behind me now, I can look back on things and go, okay, well, I did do this and I have achieved this and I did get this. But when you're in your 20s, you just don't have the successes to kind of stack up and go, okay, well, I've done all of this. You just have a lot of angst. Well, that's what I had anyway.
You're actually speaking directly to me in my present circumstance right now, because I'm in a production of Medea. I'm playing Jason.
Yes.
I've had if not rave reviews, I've had very, very positive reviews for my performance. And on the back of those reviews, I've got 2 agents coming to the production this evening. But like in my head, I'm thinking, oh, I'm no good. I'm going to fuck it up. I'm rubbish. Then it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So like every single time I get cast in a show, so I'll audition, I get cast in a show, and then I literally go, oh shit, oh God, they cast me. Oh fuck, they think I'm good. And then I go, oh fuck, they're gonna realize they've made a huge mistake, like a huge mistake. And then in the rehearsal process, I just am convinced that they're gonna fire me, that I'm the weakest link, that I'm gonna get a call from my agent saying it's not working out, they don't want you anymore. It is insane. It is
What the fuck is that about?
It is insane.
It's not just you and me, is it?
No. I mean, almost all of the performers that I speak to feel this. They all feel like massive imposters, like complete charlatans, that someone's going to catch on that they don't know what the hell they're doing and they're shit performers. Oh no. And then we get on stage every night and we like blitz the shit out of it. And we just like, we get standing ovations and everyone says we're incredible. And we're like, oh, okay, maybe I am okay. And then the next time it's exactly the same thing. It's mad.
So what the fuck do we do about it? What do we do about it? What right here, right now? What can we do about it?
What I do in that moment of feeling that imposter syndrome feeling, I have to get completely out of my own head. And I have to say to myself, Ashleigh, you feel this way every single time, and every single time you're wrong. And if the past is the best predictor of the future, then that means you're wrong this time as well. And then I managed to calm down and I'm just like, you're being your own worst enemy. You need to stop this. And then I'm okay again, So it is about being quite strict with those thought patterns and like pulling yourself out of the thought pattern really, really quickly.
And I guess the key thing is is deliberately choosing to do that, taking deliberate action to think different thoughts and feel different feelings,
and catching yourself in that spiral and not succumbing to the spiral. Like you and your thoughts are. You are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are this crazy saboteur that wants to fuck you up. And you have to say, no, that doesn't have a place here. And you have to be stronger than that. You have to be stronger than those thoughts. Yeah. Easier said than done.
I want to dig into a little bit something that you said there about if your past is the best indicator of your future, then you've always been wrong in the past about this, so you'd be wrong in the future. That's not necessarily, like, just going back to the money bit of our conversation. If you'd said yourself that same thing about that situation, then you would have stayed poor. So when is the past not the best indicator? Do you know what I mean? It's like, do you want to talk to that a bit?
It's a really good question. I think when there are things that have happened in the past that haven't served you, you have to make the decision to change that. And you have to change the way you think about things. You have to change your behavior. You have to change all kinds of things, right? And that's actually really hard, is to change the past and to not let it define the future. And so, then you need therapy, you need a coach, you need whatever it might be to help you shift something inside of you so that the past doesn't continue to be your future. When the past has worked for you and is doing well for you, you have to remember what you did to make those things happen, and you have to hold on to them and you have to repeat them. And so you're totally right. Like, the past is full of shit, but it's also full of great stuff. And so You have to try and fight the stuff that caused the shit and grow the stuff that caused the great stuff. And that is the path to enlightenment. I mean, I don't know if that's the path to enlightenment, but certainly I feel I repeat certain patterns in my life that don't serve me. And then I wonder why I end up in the situations I do. But every time I repeat those patterns, I'm going, that's the pattern. There's the pattern. And sometimes I can like yank myself out of that pattern. And sometimes I just stay totally stuck. And then I have to say, well, you put yourself here. This is of your own making. It is what it is, you know.
Yeah, a little bit earlier in our conversation, in fact, right at the very beginning, when you were talking about the ZAG for when you emigrated, you said you'd got to 35, so you've been working for 13 years or whatever as a performer, and you said that you got cast in your first role at 35, and that was late.
Yeah.
You also in the conversation said it's never too late for anything. So and I kind of guess kind of smashing all that together to think that the Ashleigh, 22-year-old Ashleigh that's leaving university with some idea about her future self, and we never really unpacked that enough. But I guess you had some idea of where you might be, like in your mid-30s. Is that what you mean by it was late? Is that you got cast in your first lead role later than you thought you would?
Yeah, because so many of my peers were getting cast really early. Like we were in our early 20s, mid 20s when people were landing roles in the big musicals. And so one of the things that I didn't do was I didn't learn how to dance from a really young age. So I couldn't get cast in the musicals that were happening here because they put such a high premium on being a dancer first. And so I just couldn't get through those auditions. So there were women my age being cast right through our 20s into our 30s, you know, in lead roles. And I only got my first lead role when I was 35. So I do feel like it was late.
What was it?
It was Fanny Brice in Funny Girl. So it was the lead role. It was the role that what I wanted to play since I saw the film, like when I was 12. And also I will say, I don't know that I was ready to play lead roles when I was younger. Like I don't think I was ready as a performer. I was ready as a person. I I feel like I needed to go through certain experiences in order to be at that place where I could take that on, because it's so huge and so frightening and so demanding, you know.
And did you have those thoughts when you got cast
Yeah,
that we were talking about earlier?
of course I did. I was just like, they're gonna fire me. I'm terrible. I don't know what I'm doing. But you know what the other terrible thing was? Oh my God, Peter. Before I went into rehearsal, I broke my baby toe. I broke part of my foot. So I was in, you know what a moon boot is? I don't know if that's what you call it
Yeah.
in the UK.
Yeah.
I was in a moon boot for basically the entire rehearsal process. And my director was not happy about it because he's a very visual person and he just couldn't see the picture, you know, away from this fucking thing that was attached to the end of my leg. So, and he made it known to me. So I was just like, I was just hysterical. Like, I would phone my ex-husband every night and just be like, they're going to fire me. They're going to fire me and cast the understudy. Like, this is like, I don't know what's going to happen here. And also there was the threat that the bone was actually going to split like completely because it was fractured. It was a hairline fracture. And my surgeon kept saying to me, if this splits, you will have surgery and you will be in a cast and you will be on crutches and you will not be able to do this show. Yeah, I definitely did feel like I wasn't good enough and that I was probably going to get fired from that job.
Just we're kind of at the point of where we started the conversation. We're talking about the ZAG. Had you already started to think about moving to London?
I'd started thinking about moving to London when I was in my 20s, and I wanted to do it when I was in my 20s, and I was too frightened. I just thought, there is no way I will work there. There is no way anyone will see me for auditions there. There is no way. I'm not good enough. It'll never happen. The rejection would be too enormous. What if I went there and it didn't work out and then I had to leave? And so I didn't go. And then when I did Funny Girl, straight after Funny Girl, I went into Avenue Q, and then this is quite an amazing story. Actually, I don't really talk about this. My agent in South Africa called me and said, Cameron McIntosh's casting directing assistant is coming out to see what talent South Africa has, just what we look like what the situation is. And they sent me some material from Mary Poppins, which I prepared, and I went and I performed it for his name's Trevor Jackson. I went and performed it for him. And when I was finished auditioning, he said to me, "You could be one of England's great leading ladies." And I knew that I had to leave and I had to move to London. So I did. Yeah. And it took a couple years for me to get it. Like, I had to get money together, and I had to, I had pets, so I had to make sure the pets were taken care of. Like, I brought them with me. So I had to figure that out, and I had to, like, put plans in place. But after that audition, I was like, yeah, okay, I need to go there. So that was a major moment in my life, like a major moment. I don't think he remembers me, but it was huge. It was huge.
I guess it's a moment that you can bring to the front when you got that voice, the other voice going, "You're rubbish. You can't do it." It's like, hang on a second, because I auditioned for Cameron McIntosh's casting assistant, and I was told this.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's huge. And I think for the listener as well, because obviously, like, I mean, obviously you're interviewing me, but I think it's important for the listener to know as well that when those moments happen in your life, to do something or change something or follow something, and I think far too often we sort of disregard that kind of feedback, or we don't listen to those whispers. And I think when you listen to them, that's when you start to feel empowered enough to change certain things in your life.
I'm guessing just you're making my job so fucking easy. Actually, it's unbelievable. It's like you're dropping breadcrumbs. You're giving me segues. You're just the whole. It's almost like we rehearsed it.
Definitely no rehearsing. Not a one.
No, not at all. I'm guessing at some point in your journey, and I'd like to kind of dig into this part of your journey now. You had a whisper about, see the segue there, about starting a business to, I guess, support the creative income.
Yeah.
What was all that about, and why did you start it, and how's it going, and what do you do, and all that?
So I moved to London. I got a job because obviously, like, I had an agent, great, amazing. I got an agent off my show reel. So I had an agent when I moved over. And I was going to tons of masterclasses and networking, and I was just trying to really make it, happen for me. But I also needed to earn money, right? Like, I didn't have an endless supply of money. The rand is incredibly weak, so I moved over there with rands, and I knew I had to start making money really quickly. So I got a job. I was working for a mystery shopping company, and I was editing their surveys that people were sending through, and I was, earning a salary. It was great. And then COVID hit. I think I'd been there, I don't know, 8 months or 9 months, and then COVID hit, and I lost my job, and everything shut down. Like, all the theaters shut down. I'd just been cast in my first show. I hadn't even been in the UK for a year, and I was cast in Carousel at Kilworth House. And I got a call from my agent saying it had been cancelled. I was
Oh my God.
I was heartbroken, like everyone was, right? That was one of the worst times, we've experienced in recent history, I think. So I had no income, and I had no theatre prospects and no auditions. And I have a friend who is a graphic designer and a project manager for businesses. And I just contacted her and I said, like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And she said to me, "You are an incredible writer, and you are very smart, and you are very resourceful. You need to start a copywriting business." And she said there are these massive communities that run their businesses online, and they're like digital nomads, and you need to go into those groups and meet people. And I have the details of someone who will hire you today because she's looking for a copywriter. And I just went like balls to the wall with this business idea. in the interim, I had to make money because as anyone who is listening to this knows, if you're starting a business, it's not immediate. So I knew I had to start making money really quickly. So I started working as a care worker in London, and I went to people's homes and I did private care for a company. And in between care shifts, I built this business from the back of my car. Like I sat with the engine running and the heater on because it was the middle of winter in the UK and I was freezing in my little care worker's outfit, little uniform. And I had couple-hour breaks between each client, and I built this business from the back of my car. And within 9 months, I could stop doing the care work. Yeah, this business is one of the greatest joys of my life. I meet incredible people. I write copy that I love writing, and I help people make money because copy makes money. Yeah, so it's just been. I think COVID was a gift for us in many ways in terms of reconnecting with things or building things we didn't ever think we'd build or whatever it might be. So yeah, that's what I did, and the business is called the Story Team, and it's just I just adore it. I just love it so much. Amazing.
Do you ever, we've all come back to it, but I'm just wondering, do you ever wonder what your life would be like if you hadn't made the jump to London when you did and you had stayed in South Africa and then were there through COVID and everything?
I don't even want to think about that, Peter.
No, no, it's okay.
Look, I mean, South Africa is a very complicated place. The economy is quite broken. The legacy of apartheid is alive and well and strong, and it still informs a lot of the problems that this country has. In terms of where we sit with power supply and water supply, and just basic needs like that and basic services. But also, we have an incredibly corrupt government who has robbed the nation of a lot of money. And I just couldn't be in a country like that anymore, where I felt the opportunities were so small. And I wanted to be in a place where I felt like the opportunities were greater, and that sort of opportunity was sort of seeping up through the pavements, which is how I sort of feel about London and New York specifically. And so I think if I stayed here during COVID, I think I would have been in big trouble financially. Like I would have not been able to work anywhere or do anything. I mean, I may very well have started the business anyway and started working for international clients anyway, which would have been great. But I don't know. I don't know.
It's another example, I guess, of what you're saying about listening to those whispers and
Mm,
really trusting yourself and going with your gut, because there was still an element of risk in moving to London.
yeah.
But with everything that was going on, you know, would you say you bet on yourself then? Is that a
100% I would bet on myself every single day of the week. Every single day of the week.
at that time specifically moving to
Yeah.
London then it was like, no, I'm gonna bet on myself here and take advantage of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think also because I knew I had an agent, like I got that agent through, as I said, through a show reel that I put together, and she had started getting me auditions already. I mean, I flew I flew from South Africa to London once. I flew overnight to audition for Mamma Mia. I auditioned and I flew back because I was in a show in South Africa. And
Oh my
so
God.
I was in London for like 12 hours to audition. Because like I was just like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this with every fiber of my being. So I knew I had an agent who believed in me and who knew I would work, and I just was like, I'm doing this.
You mentioned something earlier, which I'm just a little bit curious about. Were you aware of apartheid when you were growing up?
Yeah, yeah. So I grew up in the 80s when things got quite volatile, and there were a lot of sort of uprisings in the 80s, and then Mandela was released in 1990. And I remember I was playing with my Barbies in my room, and I was, how old would I have been? I was 10 because I was born in 82. So no, I was 8. Sorry, my maths is really bad. I was 8. So I was playing around with my Barbies in my room, and my mom came to my room and she said to me, "There's something happening on TV. You have to watch. It's very, very, very important." And I went and I watched it, and I remember the day of his release. And I think that was really the day I started to become quite conscious of what was happening in the country and what had happened previously. And And I think apartheid as an ideology, but also like how it's impacted people's lives, So I was very politicized as a teenager. Like I was quite what's the word? I was just very politically aware, and I got into a lot of fights with people, with my peers.
About that issue.
Yeah, because they were super racist, and I was just like, I was not having it like at all. So I was quite unpopular. I was bullied quite a lot.
Okay, that's interesting. What was different about your upbringing, your perspective, that gave you that different outlook to your peers? Because normally at that age, particularly, we're looking to adapt ourselves to our peer group.
I think, Peter, that's a flippin' good question, and I have never thought about this properly. I think because of the nature of my home life. So I said earlier that I have quite a tricky relationship with my mom.
What does that actually mean, if you can unpack it a little bit?
What that looked like when I was that age was very, very high levels of codependence. Like we were like this. So my mother was like my absolute world, absolutely everything to me. I didn't actually have very many friends, and I was not interested in following my peer group for, you know, a sense of belonging, or I got that from my mother, which turned out, I realized later, to be very unhealthy, and I had to pull away from that and rediscover that relationship that I had with her. So my mother was quite, what's the word, instrumental in what I believed and what I was thinking as I was growing up, and she would talk to me a lot about equality and Black people and white people and apartheid and the laws of apartheid. And then, we learned about it in school as well. It was part of our syllabus. So I learned more and more about it there. And my father was English. And so I think my father came to South Africa as an outsider and knew that apartheid was wrong. And I think I was just brought up in a liberal home compared to some of the kids I went to school with. Yeah.
And how do you think that upbringing affects and informs your work now, both as an artist and as an entrepreneur?
I'm not interested in anyone who supports Trump. I'm not interested in anyone who espouses super right-wing values. If that is who you are, I'm not interested in working with you. I don't care how much money you have. I want the work that I do to be aligned with my values, and my values are about equity and fairness and truth and speaking truth to power. And I'm a huge feminist. And so if you show me any patriarchal signs, I will whip my bra off and kick you to the curb is what I'll do.
I thought you were going to say, I'll whip my bar off and knock you one upside your head.
I mean, I think
beat you to death with it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think in the arts it's easier because I think the arts is just a very open, liberal space, right? Just by virtue of what it is and what we do there and the stories we tell and the creativity we explore. In business, I've been unfollowed a lot, and actually, I've sent out recently a few emails. I'm sure you've read them about Trump and about using your voice and not letting anyone paralyze you, because I think the world is a bit paralyzed right now. And I've had a lot of unsubscribes, Peter, like a lot of people unsubscribing. And I'm like, bye, you're not welcome anyway. So, I just, I just don't want my business. I want myself to be my business, and I am my own brand, and I want that to shine through in the business, because I want to attract people who respond to that and who relate to that and who believe those things. And I'm not opposed to dialogue about things. Like there are beautiful, wonderful people in my life who think Trump is great, and I'm having to navigate those waters quite carefully. And it's hard. It's really hard. So I'm also not someone who says, well, if that's what you believe, I'm not interested. But I'm very careful about who I work with and the values that they have, and there has to be alignment somewhere. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
A previous guest, the term he used was about being, and I was going to not push back on you, but I certainly would have asked you the question about, well, if you're just excluding and kind of cutting yourself off from people who don't, think and believe the same thing as you, then how are we ever going to, get in dialogue and kind of come to some kind of common connection as humans? I mean, you've used that it could be at the end of the day we are humans. But Phil said about just everyone should just be a little bit less sure about things.
Yeah,
just a little bit less sure and a little bit more curious about someone else's position. And I think if everybody was like that, and I don't want to think about them and us, but all humans, if we were less sure about what we believed and more curious about what other people believed, then maybe that's the path to enlightenment. You've got your path, I've got mine.
Exactly. But also, we can believe different things. Like, I think we can all believe different things. It's when you start, it's just a violent reaction to people who don't believe in what you believe in, right? Like, there's this from the left and the right, I might say. Like, I'm not just, anti-extreme, the extreme right. Like, I think the far left is very dangerous too. So where can we put ourselves that allows for conversation and dialogue? And it's tricky. It's tricky. Like, I mean, I say flippantly, I'll never work with a Trump supporter. I might meet someone who I don't even know supports Trump and be like, "You're amazing," So, like, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to put out into the world who I am and what I believe, because I think that will attract the kind of people that I want to work with. And so I'm quite intentional about doing that.
So when you think about those kind of people that you want to attract, how do you describe them? What words do you use to describe them in your own mind, if not kind of out there? How would the listener know, for example, whether you're thinking about them?
I think, there are people who they're open-minded. So particularly when it comes to marketing and copy, I'm always trying to push my clients to go a little bit further in terms of the words that they're using in their business and how they're describing the work that they do. And I'm always trying to push them to be a bit braver in putting themselves out into the world. And so,
well, what does that look like? I mean, can you give me an example, specific example, anonymized?
I have a client who, yeah, sure. I mean, I have this incredible, we're colleagues / clients. We're actually hosting a brand voice retreat together in London in June. And her name is Carol Cox. She is a speaking coach based in Orlando in America. And I found her through her podcast. And I started listening to her podcast, and I just emailed her because she's a feminist, and she talks a lot about using your voice in a bold way and not being afraid to incorporate your story and your voice into your branding. And I was just starting my business when I met her, and we got on a call, we chatted a little bit. I was on her podcast, and she asked me to write her sales page for her for something that she was putting together. And it was so wonderful to be able to just write as that emboldened feminist, right? To say, we are women, this is our voice, we should never be afraid of using our voices. And I sort of pushed that quite heavily. And she responded like so beautifully. She was just like, "This is amazing. This is my message. This is what I love." And so I'm really interested in people who are running businesses where they...
Sorry, what had it been like for Carol? How had she been?
So Carol's an A-type personality. I think sometimes when people write for their own businesses, they tend to play it safe a little bit. Like, they don't want to rock the boat too much. They want to be professional, right? Which I totally understand. But there are ways in which you can write that maintain that professionalism, but also galvanize people and excite people and get people motivated. And I have methods. Like, I don't just sit down and write any old shit that's in my head. Like, I have research methods, and I spoke to a lot of Carol's existing clients, and I got a lot of voice of customer data that I weaved throughout the sales page. And that sales page was a huge success. She got a lot of signups through that page. Whenever people contact her, they say, "Oh my God, I feel like this page spoke directly to me." So I want to work with people who know their clients, who are going to market in a way where they speak to those clients like fundamentally inside their souls, and who aren't afraid of maybe rocking the boat a little bit. whatever that might look like. So putting out a particular viewpoint or dropping an F-bomb in their copy or, saying something maybe that their industry doesn't necessarily agree with, because I think at the moment we're all sounding very similar on platforms like LinkedIn. I think everyone sounds, God, so boring.
I think we know partly what's to blame for that, eh?
Yeah, totally right. But then I see these incredible people who are saying stuff that is just out of the box, like really out of the box, not just like, oh, it's going to be out of the box. Like they are saying shit about shit. Like they're saying this is bullshit. This doesn't work. Women need to do this. Minorities need more of this. And they're really putting themselves out there in a very kind of bold, courageous way. And then they're attracting the people that they want to work with and they're making money. And so, I think when you run a business, we must not forget that yes, we want to change the world and yes, we want to help people, but we also want to make money. And so how do you market yourself in a way that attracts the people that will pay you money to help them? Like that's a major, major question in business.
Do you have any commonality in terms of size of business or type of business or industry? I guess I want to, on behalf of the listener,
Mm.
how would the listener know whether it'd be worth their and your while to kind of connect and start a dialogue?
It's so funny. Like when I put my stuff out into the world, I tend to attract coaches. So and then coaches of all kinds. So life coaches, money coaches, business coaches, productivity coaches, speaking coaches, swimming coaches. Those are all the people that I've worked with and who I'm currently working with. So that's who comes to me. I want to work with people who run businesses, any kind of business, whether it's a coaching business or a consulting company, or you are going in and delivering, I don't know, Crocs to school kids that they can wear on a Friday, whatever it might be. I want to work with businesses who are excited about what they do, who love what they do, who are willing to take a risk with their copy maybe and write a web page that's a bit out there and makes the reader could sort of go, oh, okay, wow, this is interesting. I'm interested in working with brave people who might be a little bit frightened of trying something new with their content and their copy, but are willing to go for it anyway. But I think I work really well with small business owners, medium-sized business owners, where we sit together and we look at the business and we go, okay, what do you need? How can we get this business like on fire, like pumping, because I just find business owners they have so much invested in what they do. You kind of don't find that in big corporations a lot of the time. So I don't know. Does that answer your question? I try not to limit who I work with because I think one of my strengths is that, like for example, I'm working with an engineer. She's an engineer who's written a book and she wants to help people with certain things and the design of certain products. And I've never done that before. But I think as a marketer, the principles of marketing are the same across industries. It doesn't matter what you do or where you work. And I love learning about different things. So I try not to limit what industry I work in or who I work with because I love learning. So I want to learn as much as I can and help people build their businesses.
Mm. You've used one word as part of the description of yourself a couple of times in our conversation, and that's a feminist. What does being a feminist and feminism mean to you?
That women are equal to men. That's literally what it means. That we should be given equal opportunities, equal pay, everything that men are afforded, women should be afforded as well. And it's funny because I speak to men specifically and I say, I'll call them a feminist. And they'll say, oh, no, 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 I'm not a feminist. And then I say, but do you believe women should be equal to men? And they say, of course. And then I say, then you're a feminist. Feminism's it's the other F word. It's a dirty word. And I get why. Like I get where that comes from. And I think as with any movement, there have been extremes of behavior and ideology and beliefs. And I just think women should be equal to men. I love men, adore men. They're amazing, but we're equal.
Thank you. Do you not think it's more true to say though that you're an equalitist as opposed to feminist? Because in a way, saying that you're a feminist is like putting one above the other. As what you're saying is that it's equal.
I'm looking for a dictionary, but I can't find one. This isn't my house. I mean, what's the definition of feminism?
To hit me over the head with, you mean?
To bash you over the head with. No, but seriously, what is the definition of feminism? Is it not that women are equal to men? It's just, have you got a dictionary there?
I've got my phone. So
Good. Define feminism. The Oxford English Dictionary's definition of feminism.
Belief in or advocacy of women's social, political, and economic rights, especially with regard to equality of the sexes, is the movement organized around this belief. It's a social theory or political movement arguing that legal and social restrictions on females must be removed in order to bring about equality of both sexes in all aspects of public and private life. Well, in that case, I'm a feminist.
I mean, I take your point about being a humanist. I feel that...
Well, I actually said equalitist. I know that's not a word, but...
Oh, equalitist. I mean, I am a humanist, equalitist. I think women need their own word. I think that's not because men don't deserve a word. I think it's because we need a word. And so just because we need a word doesn't exclude the other gender. It just means that, for me, the historical struggle of women is great, and it is deep seated in societies all over the world, including great democracies. And so I think women need a word for them to make it about them, because otherwise, as history has shown, they will be railroaded. And so I'm good with the word feminist. Thanks, I'll keep it.
I'm only like, I've got a spoon, so I'm going to stir.
No, it's good because it makes me think as well, and it's not, and it really isn't because I don't want men to have things. Men must have great things. They're people, and many of them work very hard, and but women must be afforded the right to have those things too. Yeah.
So I'm just going to go back to something that you referred to earlier in our conversation. And we used it to explore a particular part of your life. And I want to use that with where you are now. I'm being very cryptic, I know, sort of just, teasing it through. And that's the phrase you used was your future self. So the Ashleigh Harvey that's now in South Africa and is going to be coming back to London to move into her lovely new flat. What future self do you see? What's pulling you forward in the world?
I want to perform in the West End. That's my big dream. That's the dream, to end all dreams. So that's pulling me forward, and I will do it. I mean, I know I will. It's just a matter of time. So I have to keep working, and I have to keep pushing for that. And, I have to keep my skills strong, my skill set strong. I have to go to classes. I have to do vocal exercises every single day. I have to maintain a good relationship with my agent and the network that I've built in the UK, which I'm so grateful for. I've just made such incredible friends, which has been wonderful. So that's the one thing. And then I think the other thing for me is to continue building my business. I would love to speak more and speak about these things that I believe in. So I'm working on. I think we actually spoke. I think I posted this on LinkedIn, and you replied, or you replied to me on email or something. I just said I want to have more in-person experiences this year. I want to go to more networking events and conferences, and I want to meet people. And yes, that's to have human interaction, which is really important, but it's also to build my business and build my profile. Yeah, so I think those are the two big things, performing and my business. And I also think I love learning new things and exploring new things. So part of that for me is traveling. I want to travel. I don't know where I want to travel to yet, but I want to travel more. I travel all the time. I want to travel more. Yeah, and just I think buying this apartment is a big thing for me. I just got divorced like a year ago. My divorce came through a year ago. I've never lived alone. This will be the first time I live alone. I had two beautiful animals in my life who passed away last year, like within quick succession of one another. So I had to work really hard to get over the grief of that. I'm still like traumatized by that. So it's just, I think about learning to be in a space that is mine and be alone and be comfortable with that and figure out who I am. I've never spent time. I mean, spent time alone, but I've never lived alone. So I think I'm so excited. Like, I'm so excited about it. I can't wait to live alone. I don't want anyone in my house.
Apart from your housewarming party.
I don't even think I'm going to have one. No.
You can have a housewarming party, but in the pub down the road.
Yeah. You can come and stand on the pavement and throw your gifts through the window. You're not coming in. It's mad. No, I think those are the three things: my performing and my business, and just finding me, and finding like just who I am and what I like to do, and being cool with that. I'm really excited. So excited.
So once you've performed on the West End, and I asked this question because a couple of weeks ago I had the actor who's currently playing Jean Valjean in Les Mis in the West End. So he's achieved his life's dream. He used to sing "Bring Him Home" to his granny and granddad when he was 8 years old. And now he's singing it. Now, it was just an incredible conversation. I can't wait to get it live.
Yeah.
But during the conversation, he did say, there's some level that I'm living my dream. It's like I've been thinking about this since I was 8 years old, and there's a part of me is thinking, well, what next? So let's pretend that you're performing in the dream role. What's your dream? What's the female equivalent of Jean Valjean in Les Mis? For you, anyway. Put it out there. Come on.
I want to play Richard III in Richard III. That's what I want. That's probably I would love to be in the Les Mis. I would love to play Madame Thénardier. That's probably my musical theatre equivalent. But I love Shakespeare, and I'm actually more an actor than I am anything else. And I would love to play Richard III.
Has that been done before?
Yes, it has. Yeah, it has.
A female playing Richard III, I mean.
Yes. I can't remember which production, but it has been done. There's all kinds of things I want to do. I really would love to break more into TV and film. I think that would be really interesting. It's never happened for me, and it's not something I've really focused on because I love theatre so much. I like theatres my whole life, and so I just want to do that. But I'd love to get a role in a TV series and just see what that feels like. And I'd love to perform on Broadway. Like, obviously, of course, I would love that. But for me, the pinnacle of all theatres is the West End in London. And so, if Broadway happened, I'd be like, cool, that's amazing. But the West End is like where it's at. So, yeah.
Well, there's not a tremendous amount of Shakespeare that gets put on in the West End, but maybe a female Richard III
I know.
could do it. Yeah.
Maybe one day. We'll see.
Set the goal and then you see.
Yeah. Write it down.
I'm deeply conscious of the time. Aware that we've had I've just had such a beautiful hour and a half chatting with you.
So lovely.
It'd have been great if we could have done it in person there.
I know, right? Yeah, you should come to South Africa, and the listeners should think about it too. It's the most magical place. The Kruger Park, man, it's the most magical place.
So as we do think about bringing this conversation into land, is in the short amount of time we have left, is there any part of your non-straight line journey that we haven't touched on that you think might be particularly inspiring or helpful or encouraging for the listener?
I don't think there's a part that we've skipped. I think I've spoken a lot about a lot of things. I think maybe something to think about is just building resilience. I think these things that happen to us in life that are hard happen for a reason. And I know that just sounds so like, people, it happens for a reason.
Cliched.
But I really think it does. I really think that the struggles I went through as a child have turned me into who I am today and have given me the strength to do certain things and to believe in myself. So I think trying to build resilience is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. And it will get you through a lot. It will help you through some dark times,
How do you do that specifically, or how does one do that? Is there any specific tools or techniques or tips?
I mean, I've been for a lot of therapy, so I'm a big advocate for therapy. And I think what therapy does is it just shows you. I think for a long time I wanted the hard stuff to not be hard, and so I would try and dodge it, or I would just think, why is this happening? And I think what therapy taught me is that when the hard stuff comes, you just have to go like straight through that hard stuff, and you have to cry, you have to feel anxious, you have to rage, you have to be a fetus on the floor, sobbing hysterically. Like you just have to go through that, and you will come out on the other end, and you will have learned something. You will be stronger. You will have rid yourself of something. Something will have come from it that you can hold on to. And so I think for me, resilience is about not trying to avoid the hard stuff. It's about going right through it, like straight down the middle of it. And as ugly as it looks and as awful as it feels horrendous, just just go straight through it. Talking about my dad, I saw him struggle with addiction, and how I think I know that now that's because he couldn't go through the hard stuff. He was trying to avoid it, you know. So I think that also taught me some things.
Thank you, Ashleigh, for sharing a bit of your life with me and the listener. And in return, what can the listener and I do to help you the most right now?
You know, I think, oh gosh, that's a multifaceted question. For me, it is. I think on a very sort of grassroots level, I love connecting with people on LinkedIn. So if you're on LinkedIn, find me there, and I'd love to chat with you. You know, I'd love for you to sign up to my newsletter so you can hear a bit about what I think about marketing and copywriting, and to see how I could help you perhaps. And then I think on a deeper level, which might sound a bit airy fairy, but I really believe in this, is to just be kinder to yourself and to everyone around you. And I think at the moment we are greatly lacking in kindness and grace, no matter what our political beliefs or our religious beliefs. I think if we just met every single person with kindness, and we didn't jump onto bandwagons so much, it might help to shift something in the world. That's what you can do.
Yeah, love that. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to be kind to someone now. To have one of these conversation experiences sooner rather than later costs £200. I mean, you can have it for nothing, but you've got to join the back of the queue. So who would you like to give that £200 gift to have the experience that you've had just now? Who would really, really value it and appreciate it and understand the importance of really having the space to communicate really who they are and how they be?
There's this beautiful woman that I met on LinkedIn called Heidi, and she's just started a business with her sister, and I've helped her with a few things. We just jumped on a couple of Zoom calls together, and we've kind of helped each other. You know, she's answered some marketing research questions for me, and I've helped her with some web copy and stuff. Yeah, I think she having a space to just talk about herself, but also about the business would be amazing. And I think we need to help new business owners as much as possible. It's really hard out there. Yeah. So Heidi.
Great. I'll connect with you about that after this conversation, and we can get that introduction set up. Yeah, amazing.
Okay.
So it just remains, Ashleigh, on behalf of me and the listener, to say thank you so much for being on the Not a Straight Line podcast and having not only lived a Not a Straight Line life, but being willing to share so much of it with us today. Amazing. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Thank you for having me, and good luck to the listener with everything.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Not a Straight Line. If this conversation helped to reorient your internal compass or inspired you in any way, please let us know by heading to podcast.notastraightline.life/rate and leave a rating and review. Thanks as always to Matthew Bliss of MB Podcast Services for his exquisite engineering of this episode. If you'd like him to help you with your podcast, contact details are in the show notes. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, or there's someone whose non-straight line journey you'd just love to hear, then please visit podcast.notastraightline.life/guest. Thanks for being here with me, and I'll see you next week for another amazing, deep, inspiring non-straight line journey. Love you.